Mark here from Talking Bass. This week I've got a quick lesson breakdown of a riff that's been requested many times. It's the main bass riff from the song Roundabout by Yes, played by the bass legend and pioneer Chris Squire. Roundabout is one of those riffs that every budding rock bass player aspires to playing. It's not too hard, but it's certainly not easy for the beginner, so today I'll give you some tips on getting around the hurdles that you're likely to encounter. There are drum tracks you can play along to over at Talking Bass at a variety of different tempos, along with the tab, so click the link in the info below to play along, and also leave a comment to let me know what other Chris Squire bass lines you'd like covered. Heart of the Sunrise is another one that I'll be breaking down very soon, but let me know what your favourite lines are and I'll see what I can do. So the riff is played with a pick, it's in the key of E minor at a tempo of around 132 beats per minute, and it sounds like this. Chris Squire, along with John Entwistle, virtually created the modern rock bass tone. He used a plectrum to play a Rickenbacker bass strung with bright Rotosound Roundwound strings. The famous Ricco sound came from the dual output of the Rickenbacker, one per pickup, so you get the deep round tone of the neck pickup and the bright nasally sound of the bridge pickup in separate channels, and you can run those to different amps, giving you that huge full range tone. Now, I don't have a Rickenbacker, so I'll be using my good old Enfield with a bit of grind and EQ to get a crunchy bass tone. You'll just have to forgive my lack of authenticity. So first I'll just work through the notes that we have in here, then I'll give you some tips on getting the riff up to speed. Now, I'm going to ignore the pickup bar for now, so that's where we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, and we come in on the end of 4. Ignore that for now, I'll come back to that later. We're just going to be starting on beat 1, okay? And this is what we play for all the repeats. So, we begin on an open E string. So we just pick that, and then we have 2 ghost notes. Now if you don't know what a ghost note is, it's just that dead note that we get by holding the hand against the strings. We don't push them down, we just hold it against it, and you get that dead note. So I'll come back to this later as well. So next we have the F sharp at the 2nd fret there, and then another 2 ghost notes. So E, 2 ghost notes, F sharp, 2 ghost notes. Then we have G, 3rd fret of the E string, and we play that twice with this rhythm. Okay, now some people will play that 2nd G as a ghost note, but it's actually a fretted note. If you play the isolated track, you can hear him playing it, and it does actually help with getting the bounce of the tune. So next we move up onto the A string, and we have open A, then hammer on at the B, 2nd fret there, and then another ghost note. Now you can actually play this as either a ghost note or a full fretted note. When you're going through at speed, it doesn't really matter. You can't really tell. But I'm actually playing it as a ghost note there when I play it slow. Then up onto the D string, open D, hammer on to the E at the 2nd fret. So. And that's the riff slow. That's all of the notes in there. So. Okay, and just round and round. In terms of the fretting hand, I'm just using 2 fingers. I've got the 1st finger taking the F sharp there, and the 2nd finger taking the G. And then I'm just using the 1st finger for the hammer-ons on the A and the D string. And that's it. So I'm just using 2 fingers, and then obviously pretty much most of the hand for the ghost notes. But again, I will come back to that in a minute. Okay, so now let's have a look at some of the hurdles that you're likely to run into. Now the first problem before you play anything is the pickup rhythm of that 1st note. We anticipate the rhythm by 1/8 note, so we come in on the and of 4. So we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so we hold that, and then the next note is on the and of 1. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. Okay, so once we've done that, the rest of it is all the same. So 3, 4, and. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's the first part that you have to get down. The next hurdle that you'll run into is the picking pattern. The temptation is to alternate pick throughout the whole line, but if you do that, the number of notes in the line is going to force you into a different stroke at the start of each riff. So if you start on a downstroke, the next repeat starts on an upstroke, and so on. Now, that's fine, and it's actually a pretty good exercise in developing your pick control, but to make things a little easier and to give us a consistent starting stroke, I'd advise you to play downstrokes on both the first and second notes, okay? So that gives us E, open E, downstroke, then we've got the ghost note, again, downstroke. All the rest of the notes in the riff are alternate picked, so we're constantly alternating, but just those first two. Okay, and when you do that, when you get back to the first note, you're back on that downstroke. Now, one other possible picking problem you might run into is the upstrokes as we move across the strings. We have an upstroke when we get to the A string, and again when we get to the D string. Now, the key here is to play the same picking pattern every time and really focus on the pattern as you play. And one thing you can do to help with this is build the line note by note, paying the same attention to the picking stroke as you do to the notes. So focus on the right hand equally as much as the left. So if we build up the riff slowly, we get this kind of practice. You know, we're just taking small fragments and then adding one note at a time. Really focus on hitting that upstroke when you get to that A string, and again when we get to the D string. Another way to practice these problems is to isolate the fragments. So if I was to just take the A and D string hammer-ons, I can just practice that in isolation. So just take that really slow. That way we don't have to build up. We don't have to work up from there. We can just take it in isolation. And really focus on those upstrokes there. And then just build up speed. Okay? The next hurdles you'll run into are the ghost notes. Now, a ghost note is simply a dead note with no defined pitch. So, as I mentioned before, to make a ghost note, you simply rest the hand on the string without pushing it down and pick. Hey presto, ghost note. Now, the problem with ghost notes is that they usually lead into regular fretted notes, and you have to get used to this moving back and forth between pressing and resting. But as many of you that watch my lessons regularly will know, I have a bit of a method for teaching ghost note technique. This is by way of what I call the home position. So my home position, for those of you that don't know, is simply this hand position. But we do this by taking the first finger, laying it across the A, D and G strings there, and if you do that, you'll probably get a harmonic. So we're not pushing anything down, it's just laid there, just as we do with ghost notes. And then you take the second, third and fourth fingers and then bring those down. And you'll see there that we cover the whole of the neck there. And when you do that, because you've got all four fingers covering all the strings, we get a bunch of ghost notes when we play it. Now, this home position isn't necessarily just for ghost notes. This is for muting. So what we have here is a position of silence. So no matter what happens, you bash the bass, whatever it is, you're not going to get any noise because it's all under control. We've got everything locked down. So this is a great default position for playing the bass. If you're on stage, you've just plugged in, you can stand there like this, you can have your volumes up, and nothing's really going to happen. And another good thing about this is that if we go back to this position between notes, we're going to be locking everything down so we don't get any residual noise. So if I was to just take a standard G note there, third fret of the E string, the most basic bass line you can possibly imagine, I might start in home position there with the first finger over that G, and then I lift the second, third and fourth fingers, press down with the first finger, and everything is quiet around there because I've got the underside of this first finger locking down the A, D and G strings. So I'm allowing that note to come through. I'm allowing with these second, third, and fourth fingers. Okay, then when I want to choke the note off, I just go back to home position. I don't think about anything else apart from that, the muscle memory of that home position. So I just switch back to there, okay? Everything is nice and quiet. So how does this home position relate to roundabout and those ghost notes? Well, when we're in home position, if we were to pick, we'd get a ghost note. So you don't have to think about the actual technique of creating a ghost note at all. You're just going to get one no matter what, because in between the fretted notes, we're always going back to this default home position. So if I was to play the same, that G there, and I was to play two ghost notes before it, I don't have to do anything. I'm in the home position, I pick twice, and then I play the G. So this is a great way of getting used to playing ghost notes. And as I mentioned before, ghost notes generally lead into notes. So I could play two ghost notes there and lead in, or one ghost note. It's worth getting used to both of those. So just as two simple exercises to get you used to these ghost notes, just try working up through a simple C major scale from C to G and back. So C, D, E, F, G, F, E, D, C. 3rd fret, 5th fret, A string, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret on the D string. And what we're going to do is play two ghost notes and then the note. So. Okay, so I'm just using one finger for now, just so that you can get used to the home position. So we're just moving this hand around like this, go home position, fretted note, home position, fretted note, and then putting those ghost notes in there. You could also use one ghost note, but be aware that every time we do this, we're leading into a fretted note. Once you can play through that exercise with one finger, you can try just using all of the fingers, because you need to be able to do this no matter what finger you're on. So if we just use a standard fingering there of second finger, fourth finger for the C and the D, and then first finger, second finger, fourth finger on the D string, we can again use the home position. We start in home position, then move to the C. Home position, D. Okay? Home position, E. Home position, F. Home position, G. So we're just moving between this kind of flat hand and then picking out the notes we need. Okay? Then you can add the ghost notes. Okay? So now we understand the ghost notes, let's work back through roundabout. So as always, I'll begin in home position. So I've got the hand there and I've got the first finger roughly over the second fret, so we're in position. So then when we want the E, I just raise the fingers, then I bring them back down for the home position, and I get those two ghost notes. Then we've got the first finger for the F sharp, then back to home position, and then we get the two ghost notes again. So a lot of it is down to these second, third, and fourth fingers coming back down. So, okay. So once you have the notes under your fingers and the basic techniques in place, you can start to slowly build up speed. Now don't worry about playing to tracks or metronomes or any of that stuff to begin with. Just get those notes under your fingers, you can play it out of time, it doesn't matter. But then once you do get it all down, you just want to build up that speed. So you want to start slowly. You know, really paying attention to that picking pattern. And then once you've got that down and you're building up the speed slowly, you can try with the backing tracks. So over at Talkingbass, I've got 3 different tracks. The first one at 112 beats per minute. So let's have a listen to that. Next, we can try 122 beats per minute. Finally, we can try full speed at 132 beats per minute. Now, if you want another challenge just for practice, you can also try playing the riff with your fingers. It won't have the same defined tone in that Chris Squire style, but it's worth a try anyway. So that's the main riff from Roundabout. Now there's obviously more to the whole song than just that riff, but for a lot of budding rockers out there, this riff will be enough to keep you working for many a practice session. So hit like, subscribe and leave a comment, and remember to check out Talking Bass for hundreds more lessons on every bass topic imaginable. Okay, I'll see you next week.